Hi everybody. I know in one of my other videos, like one of the last ones I did, I said that God blessed me with a lot of words. That is not, there's no been truer a statement made, even though they don't always come out right. I got a lot of them. I say that to say I had a rough time making sense of all the words. But I know if I deliberated any longer and started thinking too much, then I do what I do and work myself out of making the video. So I just wanted to jump in. I did not put a title, so I'll have to do this when I repost this. But today is my baptism anniversary. So today, 3 years ago, I was physically baptized, and that's a distinction I'm making that I'll talk about later, is physical baptism. And I thought today would be a good day as any to talk about my spiritual baptism, the day that I accepted Christ and what brought me there. And I actually want to start off with when people are teaching you how to evangelize, the length of your story is something that's kind of paramount, because as human beings, our attention spans aren't that long. So they say, when you're evangelizing, your salvation story should maybe be like 2 minutes or so. So what I want to do, I want to start this video with the 90-second version of my salvation. And then I want to give the details, and everyone, of course, is welcome to stay on longer for the details. But God is so intentional. There's nothing that happens by accident. So I wanted to include all of the details that show how I came to know Christ. So let's see if I can do this in 90 seconds. I want to give you guys the short, brief version, and then I'm going to fill in with the details. So ready, set, go. So the 90-second version of how I came to know Christ is that I grew up in the church, but I didn't know you were supposed to foster a relationship with Christ. I had questions that weren't answered. There were groups of people who I were friends with, and one of my pastors at the church I grew up with vilified this group of people. So I walked away from the church in junior high. I became very critical and, being honest, very antagonistic of the Bible, its truths, God's people who defended the faith. I was in a toxic relationship in college, and towards the end of that, as a result of having an amazing family mentoring me, I was seeking spirituality. And when I made the decision to seek spirituality, Jesus dispatched certain people into my life, and then he helped me realize the people he had already dispatched into my life that were helping me realize that God was real, that he loved me, that he wanted me to know him and wanted me to love him back, but he wasn't going to force me to love him back, which is what I love about God. He doesn't force you to do anything. He loves us and wants all of us to know him, but he doesn't force it. So that, I think, kind of fits into my 2 or 3 minute salvation story, but I'm going to give the details. I think my experience and introduction to Christianity is really similar to a lot of other people's. I grew up in Christ, or in church rather, but again, I never had a relationship with Jesus. That wasn't even something, I don't remember it being discussed, how it wasn't just, you just go to church. You're supposed to have a relationship with Christ. And it's really interesting talking about it now. My parents came from 2 very different backgrounds and schools of thought. Whereas my mother, train of thought. So my parents were different, but they never made us choose a side. They never said you have to go to church. They never said you have to not believe. They always let us choose what we wanted to do when we were younger. My mom came from a background where there wasn't much organized religion, no church. I don't think her mother had a faith-based belief, versus my dad's side of the family. Whereas, my father grew up in a family where it wasn't a question if you were going to church on a Sunday. It's just what you did. So as a result of that, most weekends my parents would drop us off with my dad's side of the family, specifically our great-great-grandmother. So y'all knew we was going to church. And what's really funny is I always enjoyed church. Even when I was younger, even when I didn't understand everything, my siblings would tease me and call me the holy roller because I enjoyed church. I liked being there. I liked when we would go to the convalescent home and give back. I didn't even mind being in the choir. You know, I liked it. But again, similar to, I think, what a lot of people go through is... I just saw your comment. What's up? Similar to, I'm not going to say anything because I get distracted. Similar to what a lot of people go to, I let the flawed people who represent Christ put me off from going to church and put me off from God as a whole. And I think that's really a common, it's an unfortunate thing that happens, but it's really common, is that we are all flawed. We're all sinners. We are all imperfect. I don't know where we got this idea that Christians are supposed to be perfect. I don't know where that comes from. But when Christian people don't live up to whatever people's expectations are, people will let the flawed person who's representing a great God put them off from God and put them off from church. And I was someone who in my adolescence fell victim to that. So, you know, and people are people, you know, we represent God and we are supposed to be set apart. We're supposed to be different than non-believers, not better, but different. But we're all people. One day I think I'll do a study on all of the people who God used, who were sinners, who were liars, who were drunks, who did things that weren't Christian, but he used them, because that's all God does, is use broken people. All he does is use flawed people for his good. So that'd definitely be a separate video that I do. But you know, just kind of going back to, I kind of started leaning towards, I think, my mom's approach to life. Like, she's very analytical of things. She's very research oriented. All things are about looking deeper. So I became hypercritical, and I honestly, like I said, really antagonistic. I would nitpick with Christians. Like, I would try to find flaws in the Bible, in their logic, in their beliefs. Like, how can you believe in something that's so intangible? That's the right way to say that word. You know, I didn't get it. And so I would try to pick with them. And in high school, there was a young man, and he was on fire for Jesus. You know, in high school, you're trying to fit in. You're trying to blend in. You're not trying to make waves. This guy didn't get the memo. He loved Jesus, and he made sure everybody knew it. He was never like boastful or never forceful with his love for Christ, but you could just feel his love for Christ. So, you know, I would pick with him, and I'd be like, well, what about that? What about this? What about the ark? What about that? I needed facts. I needed figures. I needed tangible stuff. And looking back and realizing that he was one of the first people I saw defend the faith, I have so much respect for him, and I just appreciate that he was one of the first people I interacted with. Because anytime I would ask him something, he never demeaned me. He never belittled me. He would always open up his Bible before he gave me an answer. It was never, what do I say? What do I think? It was always straight from the Bible. And I think a lot, as Christians, sometimes we don't do that enough. We just go off of what we think or what we think we know, instead of going directly to the source and directly towards the word. And that's definitely going to be one of the next videos I do, because someone asked me, you know, about the Bible. And that's a really big subject, but you can't have Christianity without two things. One is Jesus, and two is without the Bible. You know, some people have Christianity saying, I believe in God, but I don't know if Jesus was the Son of God and was God. Jesus, God, the Word, the Holy Spirit, they're all one thing, and I definitely got to do a video on that, but I don't want to get sidetracked, so I don't want to stay on here too long. And then also, please do me a favor, if there's certain topics or certain questions you guys have, please comment, please message me, text me, inbox, whatever, because I want to know what things people are thinking about, what things people want to have conversations about. And also, I am transitioning to launching my YouTube channel. So I just launched it last week, and at some point I want to phase from going live on Facebook to having my videos just directly on YouTube. So I'll make sure to put the link in the comments or in the description of the video. But make sure you guys follow me there, and I have all of my old videos there, and it's a lot easier to find than going on my Facebook. But small plug for Jesus though. So I was really thankful of the young man. And I mentioned that to say because he's going to come up later in my salvation story. And that's why I wanted to give all the details of my salvation, because God is so intentional. He does everything intentionally and on purpose. There's no small thing. There's nothing that happens on accident. Just the fact, whereas, you know, I grew up in Long Beach, California, and end up having to move back out to Ohio, and everything else that happened to get me to know who Christ was. So, you know, great guy, evangelized. I didn't appreciate that at the time though. I was hard-headed, so all of that went over my head. In college, I was in a very, very toxic relationship. A lot of people don't even really realize how bad the situation was. It was rarely ever like physical. He put his hands on me like once or twice. Not that that's a good thing, but a lot of it was mental, emotional, like every other type of like abuse and control and whatnot. So I sometimes still look like, how did I get into that? But just not a good relationship to be in. It was the end of my freshman year. We were together about 2.5 years or so. And at one point, kind of actually in the middle of that, this was probably a red flag to get out then. But kind of in the middle of our relationship, he ended up going to jail. Not for anything he did to me. He went to jail, and I had become so entangled and enmeshed with this person that I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was without him. I'm out of my mind. I'm going crazy. Like if we weren't in school, like in class, if we weren't at work, we were together. We were always up under each other. And when he went to jail, I realized like, oh, I stopped having friends. I stopped hanging out with people. We just became so tangled up together. And I remember it so vividly. I was at my mom's house, you know, one night while he's in jail, and I'm trying to just figure stuff out. And I'm washing dishes. I have my laptop up, you know, listening to music, and I'm just like breaking down. I'm about to lose it. Just tears and trying to figure my life out and all that type of stuff. And I remember there was just a moment, and I heard the phrase, "Peace be still," whispered to me. And I kind of like figuratively tried to swap the words away. And I got back to, you know, trying to process. And a couple minutes later, "Peace be still." And I'm upset, like, what does this even mean? Where is this coming from? So I stopped doing what I was doing, and I Googled the phrase. And one of the first links that came up was a sermon. And y'all, when I tell you, whoever was talking, I don't remember who was delivering the sermon, I just really felt like they were talking to me, and they were just speaking into my situation. But remember, I'm hard-headed. So I didn't give my life to Christ that night. But that was the first time I ever heard his voice. I'm sure he's spoken to me many times before that. But that was the first time I ever really remembered hearing his voice just speaking into me. Like, you know, you're in this storm, you're in this season, but just peace be still. There's not much else I can say about that. So that was the first time I heard him speak to me. And I probably should have mapped out like what the difference in time was before coming live. But at some point after that, you know, guy gets out of jail, we're still together. And towards the end of our relationship, you know, before I just realized that the gaslighted and the mental and emotions, everything was just too much. You know, right before we broke up, we were seeking spirituality. We wanted something more. And that was as a result of actually the family that was mentoring me in business, but they became spiritual mentors. And I just saw their light. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew I wanted something like what they had. It was just something they were giving off. I didn't know it was Jesus, but they just had this light. And I wanted something like that. And we were pretty much like, we're going to try out different churches, try out different religions. And I really feel like, and again, no one ever be offended or upset about how I interpret the voice of Jesus. But I really feel like God was like, oh, you ready? Word, let's go. I got a lot of stuff for you to do. Nope, I don't need you trying out different religions. Nope, I don't need you trying out different churches. Come here. Like, you ready? You made the decision that you want something more? I'm it. So he just really just started dispatching people into my life and then revealing people who he had already put in my life. They're kind of like, I guess, like sleeper cells. Like, they were already there. But just to start dispatching people to help lead me to Christ and help, you know, me read the Bible and just learn about Christ. I've told the story. There was a Campus Crusade for Christ leader on campus. And when I tell y'all, not soon after I made the decision that I wanted something deeper, I'm on campus, big open space, a lot of people. This woman made a beeline towards me. We didn't pass by each other, no eye contact. She just comes right at me and invites me to come to their Bible study. I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'm good. You know, I got something to do that night. She's like, all right, well, I'll study with you one-on-one. I'm like, all right, well, I did just say, you know, I'll try different religions. I guess I'll start with Christianity or whatever. And then through studying God's word, you know, God revealed himself to me through his word. In addition, you know, just to other people. But he revealed himself to me in his word. And I really realized that, oh my God, wow, God is real. And I'm glad I'm not hard-headed anymore. But, you know, I realized God was real. But I wasn't ready to give my life to him yet. After I realized that God was real, I ain't say these words out loud, but it was pretty much kind of like, all right, God, you real, this cool, I'll follow you or whatever, but I'm not quite done sinning yet. Can you give me a second on that? Can we hold up on me like following you completely? Because I know if I got to follow you, that means I got to stop doing this and start doing that. You know, I'm the same as a lot of other people who think that Christianity and following Jesus is a bunch of rules and what you can do and what you can't do. I learned that that's not the case. But, you know, so I came to the realization that God was real. And I'll wrap up saying, you know, the night I gave my life to Christ. And you remember that guy I told you about in high school that defended the faith? And see, God has a really amazing sense of humor. So this young man, he goes on to become a gospel recording artist. And he's connected with the daughter of the family who was mentoring me in business. So he's having a concert to debut his album. And the young lady who he's attached with through, you know, his music ministry, she's like, hey, come out. He's having a concert. It's his album release. You know, come and support. So I come, I support. My best friend and I go out together. And we didn't plan on staying long at all. Stay out for a little bit. Hey, we came, we saw, we support, whatever. We stayed the entire time. This was the first time I ever like praised and worshiped. And I know my praise is crazy now. I can imagine what it looked like that night. But I think my friend just felt something strong happening that she couldn't like bring herself to make us leave. But it was at this young man's concert, years after he evangelized to me and planted seeds. God allowed it to be his concert that I surrendered. I can't even find the words to describe, you know, it was more than just, you know, an emotional moment, but just the words of Christ and just having a space just full of believers and just feeling that and just realizing that God was really real and that he's calling me to follow him and that he wooed me. And, you know, through the tears and just the excitement and everything, there was someone who did an altar call at the end of the service. And if anyone knows me, you know, I'm an actor, I'm a poet, that's about it. But the young man doing the altar call, he said, if you were an artist, come to the altar. And I kind of start thinking too much. I'm like, oh, well, do I really count as a... And before I could finish my thought, he's like, I said... And before he could finish his sentence, my feet just start moving to the altar. And I just fell on my knees and just surrendered. I just accepted Christ as far, you know, God, you're real and I'm ready to follow you. I'm ready for you to use me. And it was just an amazingly powerful moment. And, you know, there was a woman I don't know who she is. I didn't see her face, but she came and she prayed over me and she spoke a word into me. And even my mentor, she was telling me, because she was up in the front row. I didn't see her, but she saw me. And she's like, I could tell that was your conversion moment. And mind you all, I didn't know this was happening, but through the year or so of me knowing them before giving my life, they had been praying for me. They've been plotting and scheming. They were praying for my salvation because I guess it was pretty apparent that I was unsaved. But even at one point, someone, you know, later on, years later, they're like, I didn't think you'd ever be saved. You were so antagonistic. You know, anytime someone brought something up about Christianity, you were very attacking. Like, I never thought you'd be saved. So they had been praying over me. They had been trying to get me to come to youth group and just different things like that. They had been really wanting my salvation. So it just was an amazing thing for her to see the moment when I gave my life to Christ. Like, you just came up and you were just different. I just knew it had finally happened. What we had been praying for, what we've been hoping to happen, you were finally part of the family. You had finally decided to follow Christ. And man, when I tell y'all, I'm still on fire for the Lord, but you couldn't tell me nothing. After I gave my life to Christ, I attended Cleveland State. I was downtown, just evangelizing to any and everybody. Like, that's just what happens when you get to know Christ. You just want everyone to know. So, you know, Christians, we are always looking to convert other people because, first of all, that's what we're called to do. But second of all, it's like, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's like you go to a store and they got something really great on sale. You're going to call your mama, your sister, your cousin, your brother. You're going to post on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Like, you want everyone to know about the great deal, right? Well, having Jesus in your life is the greatest deal ever. I know that's kind of corny, but, you know, I don't want any of my family, any of my friends, anyone to miss out on the amazing gift that is Christ and the amazing blessings that Christ gives you following him. And this video has been a little longer than I anticipated, so I think I might make a separate video because what I wanted to teach on as well was baptism. You know, the difference between spiritual baptism versus water baptism, since today is the anniversary of my physical baptism. I'm really feeling led to kind of cut it here, though. Y'all can message me if you want me to go back on tonight, if y'all still up. Otherwise, I'll post it later on. But go, you know, subscribe to my YouTube page. It has all of the videos I have posted and will post in the future. And once I get enough people, I guess, you know, follow and subscribing, I'll start going live on YouTube versus Facebook. So I'm looking to do that transition. But I love everybody. I see some of my my biggest fans on here. My cousin Ajarie, I just saw her pop on. I definitely just want to shout her out because she was at my baptism and she's the one who took the pictures of me and just was really proud of me. And she is one of the most amazing cousins in the universe. She supports me in any and everything I do. Like, we were just going back and forth. Hey, cuz, last night, just sending each other different pastors and different YouTube pastors and different things like that. So I'm just really excited to have someone that amazing in my life. I had to publicly shout you out, Ree. And one of the brothers that was on earlier, he is what I call my Facebook preacher. He is just an amazing conduit, an amazing follower of Christ. He goes live on Facebook as well and just does amazing teachings in the word. It just has unmovable, unshakable faith. So I definitely am excited. I'm just thankful to God for all of the people he has put in my life to help lead me to Christ. I'm excited for all the people he has put in my life to grow me in Christ. Because Christianity isn't something that should be stagnant. You're always growing. You shouldn't always be ingesting milk. You know, you shouldn't always be a babe. You should at some point move from that milk, that bottle, to meat. So that's it. I'll see y'all. Bye. I never know how to end my videos, but I guess this works.